All right, welcome back, everyone. As you continue to finish enjoying your lunch, we're going to step into what is always one of our most looked forward to and highlighted sessions of the conference, which is our featured keynote session. So we are lucky enough today to be able to welcome and have with us Yazan El-Hamwi, who is the Chief Information Security Officer and Senior Vice President at KabaFusion. Yazan brings over 17 years, almost 2 decades of experience leading IT and cybersecurity teams across North America and with global enterprises. His work has spanned diverse sectors with a focus on information security, IT audit, HIPAA, SOX compliance, IT governance, cybersecurity assessments, remediation, data privacy, and SOC reporting. What don't you cover? What don't you do? Both for complex and regulated organizations. So we are lucky enough to have his time, his talent, his energy. He's going to lend us for this hour session. I'm going to let him take it away as he takes us through the adversarial advantage, the AI threats reshaping enterprise security resilience. Please give a very warm welcome. Yazan.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Kim. Thanks for everyone who making this happen. Thanks for everyone who came out and networked with their peers. I got the chance to meet a few friends and few colleagues that I've worked with in the past. So it's a great opportunity to have another FutureCon here in Orange County. AI has changed a lot of the things that we're doing on a day-to-day basis. It hasn't changed the equation, but it has changed how we play and how we defend our enterprises. The title, I wanted to rephrase this title and say, Fighting AI with AI. That is what we're going to cover today. Enough with my bio. Andrew covered that already. But let's jump into the agenda for today. So why AI changed the equation? We're going to talk about 8 AI-powered attack vectors, where we headed from now, the cost of data breaches in 2026, building resilience, and where do we go from there? So this is a diagram that shows the data breaches over the last few years. The bigger the circle, the more data records that have been. And this is, of course, a very subset of the data breaches happening over the year. But what I want to highlight is the blue versus the orange. We've heard about the Change Healthcare, the National Public Data, Ticketmaster, SolarWinds, all of that happening over the years. But where you would like to see is those orange AI-powered cyber attacks that started to emerge in late 2025, 2024, 2026. And that trend is going to continue to happen. What we are expecting to see is that almost every cyber attack, every data breach is going to have an AI-powered component into it. So 2025 versus 2026. In 2025, we saw 16 billion data records exposed. We saw 60% of initial access into large scale happened from stolen credentials. So in 2025, the breaches were not sophisticated. They were logins. There were, in many cases, lack of MFA, or MFA is not strong enough, or it could be bypassed. 2026, we see that the expert-level cyber attacks, cyber bad actors, if you compare that to an AI model right now, 70% of the tasks that are done by expert cyber bad actors can be done by an AI model. Cloud methods can do 68%, and those AI models are going to improve. So in no time, we will have a completely autonomous cyber agent that are doing vibe hacking. So that is what we are expecting to see in the next few years, and it's going to change how we defend our enterprises and protect our data. So in order to be able to defend our enterprises from future attacks, we have to start imagining what could those look like. A multi-agent heist. So several AI agents divide a single breach among themselves. One harvests credentials, another buys dark web data, a third picks an exploit, a fourth sends a phishing email to a set of employees, negotiating ransomware, synthetic long game persona, self-patching malware, where we can talk about a malware that rewrites itself to avoid not only signature-based, but also behavioral-based detection. It's like, back in the days we talked about polymorphic malware, that we're going to see more of that, and infrastructure orchestrator. So it's the same type of attacks, but it's powered by AI. The 8 AI-powered attack vectors that we're going to cover are those: AI-generated phishing and social engineering, deepfake and voice cloning. I think we have a few vendors that also kind of try to protect us against those. AI-assisted exploitation of vulnerabilities. We'll talk about the trends: agentic AI attacks, autonomous operation, prompt injection, jailbreaking, synthetic identity and bot-driven fraud, adversarial attacks on AI models, and AI supply chain attacks as well. But I did not mention ransomware. Ransomware is the type of an attack that can leverage any of those previous 8 attacks. So the initial access will happen with those 8 AI-powered attacks, but ransomware can be part of any of those. And we'll talk about Prompt Lock. Is the first AI-generated ransomware. It's a ransomware that started at a research university, I believe at New York University, where a group of researchers started to think about that, and they developed something, and then they uploaded it to one of the online scanning for virus websites, and everyone started talking about it. But it was a research-based project that very soon we might see it in the wild. So let's talk about the first AI attack vector, and it is the highest volume. Some statistics that might be interesting: 44% of AI-assisted initial access techniques observed on Anthropic were phishing. So phishing is the highest volume, but what we will see in terms of phishing, it's going to be way more directed, way more customized. It's no longer easy for an end user to identify, because it's becoming way more tricky. You'll see more perfect invoice going to the accounting team that is harder for them to detect. 80% of phishing emails detected in late 2024, early 2025 used AI-generated content. And the flawless invoice is one of the scenarios that an AI-generated email reference, a real vendor, a project and tone, no typos, no red flags. That's what we used to tell everyone: look for typos in those phishing emails. That is no longer relevant. And it authorizes wire attacks. What can we do about that? Phishing-resistant MFA, mandatory out-of-bound verification. So we have to educate our accounting team, and everyone for that matter, on those types of phishing attacks. One of the things that I recently received is a vendor or a headhunter reached out to me about a board-level opportunity with a large organization, and it seems almost perfect. Like, oh my God, this is a board-level opportunity, it's great. And then the guy didn't ask me for anything. All what he has to do is like, look, I think your LinkedIn profile requires some work. Why don't I refer you to this other guy? And the other guy that I was referred to was only kind of, oh, I can improve your LinkedIn profile. Here's what you need to pay me. And at that time, I was like, that is very smart, right? So things are changing. It's becoming trickier and trickier. Deepfake and voice cloning impersonation fraud, that's the highest financial impact attack vector. 25 million wired after a deepfake video call convincing impersonated CFO and other executives. So now you're talking about a team meeting where you have multiple executives joining the call, talking in the same tone, in the same, with video, and the end user might not even realize that it's a deep fake, multi-agented, multi-agent attack. Another statistic, 1 in 4 UK scam calls in 2025 were AI-enabled, impersonating officials, bank staff, or distressed relatives. One of the things that is very saddening for my heart is that how many seniors lose their money. It's in the billions of dollars where seniors lose their money because of those attacks. And I think the banking industry should be doing better in really protecting the financial assets of seniors, of everyone on that matter. But it is something that is very serious, and I think whenever I go to my bank and I ask about like how often that happened, and every time they told me, we have people on a daily basis come to our branches and tell us about they need to really withdraw a large amount of cash, and then we ask them why. We try to educate them, it is a fraud, it is a scam, but sometimes they even refuse. So that is also something that, as an industry, we need to work on as well. How do we defend against that? Well, we have to get into the Microsoft Teams, into Zoom, deep fake detection technologies. I don't think most of the larger players have that enabled as part of their offering, but it is something that we need to achieve to protect, especially kind of the accounting departments and people in general. The third attack vector is the AI-assisted exploitation of vulnerabilities. This is the fastest growing. So when we look at what has been happening over the last few years, vulnerability exploitation has been trending down for many, many years. That changed in around 2025, 2026. That trend went up again. Because right now, most of enterprises cannot patch as quickly as the bad actors are trying to exploit those vulnerabilities. And right now, we have AI agents that are really capable of really exploiting those vulnerabilities. So that trend has been coming up, but the enterprises have not been able to match that with more aggressive SLAs for patching their software, patching the systems. So there's a lot of work to be done there as well. Scenario here, we're talking about only a good guy with AI can stop a bad guy with AI. Lamehug malware used a commercial LLM to generate polymorphic code on demand. AI moved from research into offensive use during 2025. We talked about that. How do we defend against this attack vector? Aggressive patch management SLAs, exposure management platforms, reducing attack surface, micro-segmentation, all of that good stuff that we need to have in place. This is the fourth attack vector we're going to talk about, agentic AI attacks, autonomous operations. This is the most severe emerging risk. 80 to 90% of state-sponsored espionage operation was executed using autonomously by AI. So with the current geopolitical climate, you would see nations using those kind of attack vectors to attack our infrastructure, to attack our critical assets. And we need to have the technologies and we need to have the funding, to be honest, as well, to be able to protect our critical assets against those autonomous operations. The shadow agent scenario, an agent with a standing over broad permission, nobody reviewed, is manipulated into exfiltrating data before anyone notices it exists. So what we need to talk about is we had service accounts, now we have AI agents, and those AI agents can change their behavior, and they can change their behavior in real time. So what we need to do is that we need to have other AI agents that are monitoring the behavior of AI agents for any deviation in behavior. So we call those the guardian AI agents. So we use the same technology to monitor what could be exploited by AI. Mandatory human in the loop is another defense mechanism to have in place. Treat every agent as a first-class identity, named owner, scoped, time-bound credentials. That is also critical. The fifth attack vector is prompt injection and jailbreaking. 17% of security incidents involving an AI model or application cited prompt injecting as a cause. 90% of organizations with an AI-related breach lacked proper AI access controls. 87% have no AI governance policy at all. That is something we're going to talk about in terms of what does AI governance mean? What does a good AI governance mean as well? In terms of jailbreaking, we're talking about how can you bypass the safeguards that were put by the LLM model in order to do something, create a phishing email or create a malware. So we all heard about the ban that was put on Mythos because there was a proof that it could be bypassed to do something kind of was supposed to be stopped by the safeguards that was designed by Anthropic, and that led to the ban on the export and then delayed the release of the model for weeks and weeks. So the continuous defense against jailbreaking is going to continue. But what can we do when other LLM model generators in other countries do not have the same safeguards in place? So we need to be ready to be able to defend against that as well. Some of the defense mechanisms that we can have in place: input-output guardian layers, prompt firewall, and the response firewall. So there's input validation, and there's also protection against the same way we used to do the input validation against SQL injection in the past, as an example. Continuous automated red teaming mapped to the OWASP LLMs. It's a top 10, not a one-time check. So this is prompt injection and jailbreaking is the number one risk identified by OWASP. Here's a live case study. I think I jumped ahead when we talked about Anthropic and how jailbreaking affected the release of Claude Fable 5 when it was bypassed, how that led to the release, the ban, and then how is the industry is converging on gated access. So OpenAI previewed the next model into a small government-approved group rather than public kind of release to everyone. And that is going to be the model that we're going to see, is that there will be a staged release of new AI models. The sixth attack vector is a synthetic identity and bot-driven fraud. This is the largest by raw volume. 90% of the 16 billion Microsoft account creation reported in 2025 or in first quarter, in the first half of 2025 came from bad bots. So that is significant. We're talking about kind of emails that were created to be used as part of phishing attacks, fraud, scams, and so on and so forth. 4 billion in fraudulent transactions, thwarted by Microsoft in the year to April 25. Much of it likely were AI enabled. How can we protect against that? Liveliness detections, specifically hardened against deepfake, identity graph, or consortium of data matching to catch identities that blend real and fake attributes at the same time. Adversarial attacks on AI models, 24, 21, and 15% of AI model security incidents are model inversion, evasion, and data poisoning, respectively. Only 20% of organizations are confident that they can secure generative AI models against cyber risk. So the level of confidence that we're able to secure those AI models is still very low, and it could easily be misused by bad actors. How do we defend against that? Routine scheduled model audits and adversarial testing built into the life cycle of development of the LLMs. Watermarking and differential privacy techniques to reduce model inversion and extraction risks. So that is where it's a little bit more focused on probably the big technology players, where they have to do a little bit more to secure those AI models. But at the same time, we have to realize that not everyone is using Claude and ChatGPT and Gemini. There are lots of organizations, lots of users across the country that are using Chinese models and Russian models, and those have way less safeguards than the US ones have. The eighth and the last attack vector we're going to talk about is the AI supply chain and infrastructure attacks. 30% of AI model security incidents trace back to supply chain companies. So think about how the SolarWinds attack back in 2020 happened. Think about how, rather than using that SolarWinds incident to attack few government agencies, if an AI model was able to use that attack vector to to attack every single client of SolarWinds, that would have been a massive, really tens of thousands of clients would have been impacted. So that is what we can imagine in the future, that it's not going to be very targeted. It's going to be a massive supply chain attacks affecting every single client of those breached vendors. Another interesting statistics, 4.9 million, 267 days are the average cost and time to contain a supply chain breach, so it takes time, right? I remember there was a CTO at a large organization says, everyone has been breached, someone knows it, someone does not. So we're really, you have to be into that mindset that you're not really hunting for an attack, but you're also always preparing to understand and identify any deviation from regular behavior across identities, across systems, across data. So what does a breach cost in 2026? Of course, it depends on the type of the breach, the type of the incident. For vulnerability exploitation, we're talking about 4.2 million. Phishing, a little bit more, slightly more than that. Supply chain is a little bit more than that. But the interesting thing is that the average time to identify and contain supply chain is still, we're talking about almost a year. It takes time, but the AI will continuously shorten that time frame, and vendors have to do and use AI to really protect their technologies, their systems, have better processes in place, and enterprises have to do more in terms of due diligence on those vendors. A SOC 2 report is no longer a good assurance that an organization is doing the right thing. We need a higher level of assurance and continuous, not Most of organizations, they do that good due diligence just at the beginning, just as they sign up with the vendor. But once they signed up, the threshold and the level of due diligence that are taking place on a year-to-year drops significantly. So where is the gap? So I'm going to argue that the gap isn't technology. It's really governance. So 77% perform no adversarial testing on AI models. Lots of organizations have, they say the percentage of organizations that have AI projects in place in terms of adoption is around 70%, but in terms of real adoption, the percentage is less than 10%. So there are lots of AI projects are trying to be adopted in different departments, in different processes, but the real adoption where it's really made it to the final day-to-day usage is still less than 10%, but it's going to increase. 97% of organizations lack adequate AI access control models, no AI governance policies at all. So what is AI governance really? It's the policies, the processes, and the accountability structure that ensures AI systems are developed, deployed, and monitored safely and in line with regulations. You will see that most of the frameworks that we have in terms of regulations, later this year, we have a new updated privacy rule when it comes to HIPAA. Next year, there is updates into the security rule when it comes to HIPAAs. But also that you'll see that in other industries as well, where AI risk is really part of the requirement of every single risk assessment. So the components that we need to have in place when it comes to AI governance, we need to talk about policy and ownership, risk assessment, access control, the life cycle and monitoring of the model from training to the release, and then regulatory alignment and monitoring and audit. It's a multi-layer defense that we need to have in place. Every identity needs to be protected, and it has to have limited access. The same concept that we have in terms of least privilege that we apply to the identities attached to humans, we need to have it for AI agents as well. And we need to have those also AI guardians that also have limited access, but they're also monitoring any deviation of behavior of the AI agents. Detection and response, governance and testing, and resilience and recovery. So the same way when we do user acceptance testing, functional testing as part of the change management or software development lifecycle, we need to have the same thing in place when we are adopting AI models and see how resilient the models. And we need to do that with every new release of an AI model. So the same technology is now the best defense. Baseline, then flag the drift. We talked about that. We talked about establishing what does normal look like across for AI agents. We talked about setting a guardian agents, real-time, continuously, not once, automated adversarial testing runs on schedule, using the same class of AI tooling attackers use. So it's part of that automated testing that you do as part of a new development cycle, and then validating exposure. Don't just scan. AI-driven exposure management confirms what critical findings are actually reachable. So we have up to 90% faster phishing case handling with AI-ready alert triage, and 71% of security analyst tasks that generative AI can automate or augment those attacks. How does zero trust change between pre-AI era and the new AI era? We used to talk about service accounts with broad standing credentials. Now we talk about named agent identity, scoped to one task, time-bound. We used to talk about authentication at login. We now to talk about continuous authorization at every action through a broker or gateway. Logs reviewed after an incident, real-time behavioral monitoring of tool calls and reasoning traces. We need to anticipate that an AI model that is used in production could be poisoned. It could be jailbreaked, and it can start misbehaving. So we need to have the defense in place for that potential. So it requires continuous monitoring and continuous having continuous alerting and preventative controls in place as well. We used to have trust once. Now it's like continuous verification as we adopted zero trust on the network side. So what I want to summarize is resilience is a standing capability. It's not a project that you finish and move on. We need to be able to continuously be able to prove that our environment is cyber resilient, that we have to have the right, when we talk, for example, about immutable backups, we need to make sure that the encryption are really post-quantum ready. When possible, we need to adopt the next level of encryption, because at some point, especially when we have some kind of confidential information that maybe adversaries are storing and waiting for that moment of a very popular encryption to break, where they go and then unbreak all that stored encrypted information. So we need to go and try whenever possible and push our vendors to go to the next level of encryption where possible. 4 things worth remembering: 1 technology, 2 sides. The threat is shifting. Governance is the gap. Identity is the control point. With that, let's open the conversation. I don't want it to be just a question and answer. It's anyone has some thoughts, maybe they come up across any scenario. We're all open for any question or any comments.
We actually have some online presence. I have a question from John Bartlett.
Mm-hmm.
What is your confidence in watermarking/labeling as a level of protection, or is AI making those types of security mechanisms irrelevant?
Good question. There is less confidence in the watermarking at this point, because in many cases, AI models are able to remove those watermarking, and it depends on what level, what types of watermarking we're talking about. But it's slowly and gradually the AI models can remove watermarking, but it also, even when you talk about watermarking the output of an AI model, right? You can go to the general instruction of an AI model, and you can ask it, well, write this in the tone of this specific writer, or write this in the tone of this, and how articles are written on the New York Times, and so on and so forth.
I have another question from Ella Ghazi. Considering the time frame used for identifying a supply chain breach, even with using AI, what would be a good solution?
Can you repeat that question, please?
Yeah. Considering the time frame used for identifying a supply chain breach, even with using AI, what would be a good solution?
Good question. So it is about really identifying what is the normal behavior of that software, that technology, that vendor in our environment, giving it the least amount of access it needs to operate in our environment. And when we see a vendor, a process that is deviating from what is normal in our environment, we need to be able to identify it very, very quickly and shut it down. And we need to have those tabletop exercises. We need to have those situations and be prepared for those attacks. I think many organizations are not really prepared. They don't have a tabletop exercise. They haven't done an actual scenario simulation of such attacks where really the response should be in minutes, not hours, not days. Any questions from the audience? The food I know was very good, so maybe that's part of the. All right, go ahead.
Stand by, wait.
When we talk about securing our network, we talk about patching. What are your thoughts on relying on vendors to provide patching, or do you see a shift of companies more of developing their own AI to intercept that before the patch? Because the concept of we are secure because we apply the patch, what are your thoughts on that?
Very good question. The first part, do I see the industry kind of moving into that where we're developing the patches on behalf of vendors? Highly unlikely. It's maybe for the very popular ones, right? Maybe when Microsoft is so much delayed on providing, it's the first Tuesday of the month or the second Tuesday of the month, and then there's just the day after that, there is a critical, there is a new vulnerability. So, and Microsoft is going to say, we're not going to do this for the next month. Well, maybe in that scenario, yes. But in most likelihood, what we need to do is focus on reducing the attack surface, right? And if we are aware that, hey, there is a Citrix vulnerability and there is nothing that we can do about it, then all what we can do is we need to reduce the really reduce the attack surface for anyone potentially exploiting that vulnerability. And sometimes we might need to be able, you know what, we're going to look at potentially limiting access, restricting access remotely for hybrid users or whatever, till that risk is contained. So we need to be able to have that discussion with the business and tell them, look, in those kind of scenarios where we really are not able to reduce the attack surface significantly while we're waiting for that vulnerability, we need to reduce the access level to people within the network, within the organization, within a whitelisted networks, and so on and so forth. So that is a possibility. But is there a possibility that because companies have access to the source code, and but there's also a potential for a new kind of vendors that can kind of jump into that area and develop just software to reduce the attack surface for a specific vulnerability while we're waiting for a vendor to go ahead and provide that fix. Go ahead.
Gotcha.
Hi, one of the question is from one of your 4 key takeaways you did mention about governing the AI. So recently we do see a lot of technologies within AI. They say, hey, like we need to use MCPs as a standard protocol while building your agentic AI platforms, right? So when you mentioned about, I think you also talked about implementing a cryptographic encryption, which
Yes.
is like really a good recommendation. So from industry perspective, we want to understand when they're building an actually AI governance within any enterprise, as you mentioned about building the governance of AI, do you also see they're including the cryptographic, the quantum thing which you have mentioned? And what are some of the top 3 things they have to use it when they're building this governance AI policies or adapting those governance while building this AI, agentic AI? That's my question.
Okay. Very good question. I'll try to answer to the best of my knowledge. When it comes to AI governance, is what we're basically asking for is that we need to have an inventory of all the AI agents that we have in the environment. We need to understand what each one of them is doing in the environment, what level of access it has, and we need to have the tools to have that as we continue to deploy more and more AI agents, We can no longer rely on an Excel file that has all the list of AI agents. Here's the description. Here's the servers. We need to have discovery. The same way we did with assets a long time ago, right? We used to rely on the asset management system to really give us a list of all the devices that we have in the environment and so on and so forth. But at some point, we realized that's a manual effort that will have gaps eventually. And we went into kind of, okay, now we have discovery of all the assets that we have in the environment. Now we need to have discovery tools to discover what is AI agents we have in the environment, what they're doing, what level of access they have. And then we go and review it and then see, okay, why does this agent, if it's doing this, why does it have to do this extra amount of servers with extra amount of privileges and so on and so forth. So yeah, I think that's what I can think of. I know you asked for 3, but I'll think of 2 more, for sure.
Coming over.
Mike's coming. If you can kindly introduce yourself, that would be all.
Hi, my name is Steve Jaffe. I'm with Dazzle. My question is regarding IoT devices that have embedded OSs that have defects and are never going to be patched. What kind of solutions do you see for, I mean, segmentation is one way, but that can be breached. Are there any like agentic ways to maybe sandbox these devices, or what kind of solutions do you think exist?
Good question. First, so the premise of the question that we cannot rely on that vendor to patch the OS for that IoT device. If that is not a possibility, then as you mentioned, network segmentation, micro segmentation, this device only talks on those specific ports, this kind of type of traffic. So network monitoring, network segmentation, network micro segmentation, and then really isolating we need to be able to understand what is the normal network behavior for that IoT device, so that the second we realize that, wait, why suddenly there is a scan coming out of this device? Why this different of network behavior on that device? We can go ahead and stop it and contain it, and so on and so forth. So, but it is going to continuously be a vulnerability that we might not be able to patch. So all what you need to do is put access controls, put monitoring around it, because it might stay for there. And for many organizations, say, you know what, we don't want this IoT device in our enterprise networks, period, right? So that is another way of tackling that risk. So if you can't treat it, if you cannot mitigate it, whatnot, you just say, we're gonna just get rid of that risk all over. I think the lady here has some question. Oh, sorry, there's one
Hi.
before you. You got the mic.
Sorry. LB Simondo, Sharp, HIPAA Privacy and Security. You mentioned that AI is not technology, it's governance. And policy, process, and accountability is a must. What would you do first? I mean, would you have a policy and then process in place? Which order would you do that first?
Good question. I would say start with a policy. Start with a policy, and so that you want to fix the AI. You want to fix the AI risk, not for one AI agent, not for one LLM model version that we have right now. We want to fix it for now and for across the enterprise. Especially when you have a large enterprise, you want to make sure that every AI agent is mandated, and everyone knows that this is how we govern the AI risk, right? So it requires a lot of collaboration, specifically with the development team, the software engineers, and then also with the system administrators to realize that the AI agent risk is a little bit similar to the risk with service accounts, but it's much bigger, and it can vary. It's not something that you can, if it's set up in place at one time, that it wouldn't change, because we talked about poisoning LLMs, we talked about someone jailbreaking LLMs, and so that suddenly the AI agent is starting to act in a different way. Good question, though. Thank you.
My question is pertaining to the IoT, going back to the IoT devices. There, a lot of times you can't even install the agents when it comes to any detection per se for those IoT devices. So when it comes to the AI, agentic AI aspects, and how do you solve for those pieces? You can't even detect what's out there on those devices, like mostly if they are client-based. So, you know, how are you looking for solving for such aspects on the?
Good question. So think about the vendors out there that get a copy of all the network traffic. So all the network traffic that goes out in the environment, they have to go through there. And I can mention names of vendors that do that, but all the traffic in the environment has to go there to their cloud environment. And from there, they monitor that network traffic. Some of it is for IoT, from an IoT traffic, and they baseline that traffic that this is normal, right? So while you can't fix that IoT vulnerability, you can't really patch it in many cases. Think about large screens that we have in our environment. Like most of them are manufactured by foreign countries. They have so many vulnerabilities. We talked about, there have been lots and lots of scenarios where people are able to hack into the cameras and the mics of those larger screens that we have in our living rooms. We have it in our boardrooms. So what we can do is that, as I mentioned, isolate it as a network traffic, but at the same time, we need to have the capability to, and it's an expensive, it's not a cheap offering that vendors provide, so that they can monitor all the traffic coming across those IoT devices, and then when it's deviates from the baseline, they go and alert us, and hopefully we have some use cases to isolate that device or put it on, shut all the traffic into it. So there is also an integration with the network devices on the local devices, on the local networks in order to do that. So it is a risk that I think most of organizations are still not prepared for as well. So, and it's not on the it's a big risk, but it is one of the you need a lot of effort to mitigate, in all honesty. Yeah.
Yazan, we have another virtual question from Robert Morgan. If a SOC 2 Type 2 is becoming a thing of the past, what should we be looking for in the future? Additional security controls and data handling security certifications, pen testing, or for AI or other?
Good question. I want to clarify one thing. When I say that SOC 2 Type 2 doesn't provide a good level of assurance, it doesn't mean that we don't need it. Like, we really need those SOC 2 Type 2, but the industry has reached a level where there are some organizations that are providing you for $8,000, they give you a SOC 2 Type 2, and it really doesn't meet the requirements and doesn't really give the assurance that we need as users. So when I look at the SOC 2 Type 2, I look at, okay, what CPA firm is signing on that SOC 2? Is it like a small AI all automated SOC 2 Type 2 provider that is all generated and they install an agent and it's done for, it's a very cheap one? Or is it like a big 4 level SOC 2 Type 2 that is, that it probably, rather than you spend 8K, you might need to spend 80K on it, and then it really have some good testing and good, so the level of the CPA firm that is doing the SOC 2 is very important. And I think as an industry, the governance body, it's missing my name, that is governs the SOC 2 Type 2 should really do a better job of monitoring the quality of the SOC 2 Type 2, so that if a CPA firm is not doing a good job in terms of the quality of the testing, they shouldn't be able to produce a SOC 2 Type 2. Any last questions? Going once. Oh, here you go.
With the increasing knowledge of AI and the vastness that it brings, there's a big increase of a lack of skill set in industry. How do companies mitigate that risk of skill set to match the level of complexity that's involved with managing AI, defending AI, and all of the stuff that comes behind it, regular IT support?
Good question. This is probably outside my, I'm giving my opinion, but that's not my real specialty. But what I can tell you is that the large every LLM, every big player in the AI world is slowly, they want the largest adoption, and they spend money so that you're using ChatGPT, or you're using Claude, or you're using Gemini, or you're using what. So with that push for a larger adoption, and there's monetary incentive for the companies to have a large user base. With that, they spend a lot of money on the training. So what I see is that lots of organizations, for example, that deployed Claude, they really haven't taken advantage of the Claude training that is provided by Anthropic, right? There is so much training, and there's so much great channels on AI that can be leveraged, but it is moving too quickly, and everyone, like we as IT and cybersecurity specialists, we can hardly keep up with what's going on with the names of a new AI models and their capabilities and how to secure them. So it is a growing challenge, but the people who stay on the top of that skill set, they're gonna be expert, they're gonna have a great career growth, especially when they learn and they share and they create a brand for themselves as experts. They will add great value to the organization that they work for, and then they should be rewarded, and they will be rewarded by their current employer or next employer, in all honesty. All right. With that, I want to thank you everyone for coming. Thanks the vendors who sponsored this event. And thanks FutureCon for bringing us together again here in Orange County. Thank you, everyone.